how do you break through some of the obstacles that you might be facing in order to get from where you are now to that place of having ultimate freedom? Look at somebody that went from 0 to 180 doors. This is literally what most people on this channel come here looking for, is how do I get from 0 to that? Hey, welcome to the VIP Financial Ed YouTube channel. My name is Matthew. I'm the president of VIP Financial Education. Here on this channel, we talk all things cash flow related. And we're here to help people explode their bottom line, meaning how much money is left over at the end of each month. We do that by growing our income and assets column and by also focusing on minimizing our liabilities, paying as little in interest as possible through various banking hacks and how to maximize the use of our credit, both personal and business credit. So if this is your first time on the channel, make sure you're a subscriber because we give away secrets here that you're not going to find anywhere else. This is not about ratcheting back and giving up all the things you love, like expensive coffees or weekends away or even international travel. This is about being ultra generous and having enough money left over to still buy all the things you want too. So that is the life I choose to live. I've been living that now for multiple years, and I like to also involve other experts that have really designed their own life and live life on their terms too. And I invite them here on this channel to share their stories and obviously involve some of the conversation around how do you break through some of the obstacles that you might be facing in order to get from where you are now to that place of having ultimate freedom. And I think that's really the best way I could describe what you're going to get here on this channel and from today's video. So I've got a very special guest. This is a dear friend of mine. This is Michael Mathe. This is Michael's probably dozenth video here on the channel. He's a regular guest, but today I wanted to invite him to share some things that he hasn't really talked much about, because his background has always been really impressive. I happen to know that he's been through 3 startups himself. The one that he's been here on the channel talking about regularly is called Little Pink Houses of America, which is a breakthrough, revolutionary approach to making a lot of money each and every month in real estate without having to have any cash or credit of your own. And I'm going to send you guys to a couple of videos that we've released on that subject if that's something that you're interested in finding out more about. It is amazing. We've got testimonial after testimonial from current members of this channel, audience members just like you, that are succeeding with them in that program. So we're going to talk a little bit more today about Michael and his personal story, because I think there's certainly going to be takeaways from what he's gone through that will help you guys as you're going through your entrepreneurial journey or your real estate investing journey too. So when did you first become an entrepreneur?
First and foremost, I appreciate the invitation back out here. I always love coming to see you guys.
Thanks
and I kind of knew at a relatively young age, never particularly loved school. You know, I obviously did basically the bare minimum to get by. Right. I just wanted to ultimately get that diploma in college, and I kind of joke around. I was on the 6-year plan, but took some time off, so I was actually only taking classes for about 4.5 years of it, but wanted to get that diploma. Kind of started the job search, if you will, because I didn't know what I was going to what that was going to translate into. So got a job right out of college. Really, the only job I've had as a W-2 earner since I graduated. So lasted about 3 months. It was a sales position out of 100 and some odd reps. Within a couple months, I was up to number 2. So really excelled, liked what I was doing, but hated working for someone else. And I specifically remember, and this is 20 plus years at this point, I had a boss, and the guy's name was Ernie, and he pulled me into his office one day and he said, "Hey, you're doing a great job." Offered me effectively a promotion to go up into a managerial role, and I actually declined it. I did not want to follow that corporate path at all. A couple weeks later, he said, pulled me into that same office again and said, you know, doing a great job again. I know you didn't want that promotion. He said, but I got to be honest with you, you're unmanageable. And I took that as a compliment. I said, thank you, Ernie. In fact, here's my letter of resignation. So really was doing well, hated punching the time clock, hated, you know, working for someone else. I wanted to, you know, start my own thing, forge my own path, and that was kind of the start of it. So left that job. My best friend and I moved out to California in the Bay Area, along with my dad, who's another partner in a business that's totally unrelated to real estate. 3 of us got that business started out of our house and took that from 0 to close to $20 million in just a couple years. That business still exists now. I've been silent for a number of years.
Who's running it?
My best friend Eric and my dad are still the 2 partners there. So they're still doing that. It's direct mail marketing, so all the mail that you get in your mailbox you didn't necessarily ask for. You probably have us to thank for that, or them to thank for that. But a lot of digital marketing at this point. Did a tech startup in Costa Mesa, California, actually with my sister. It was a great business. Ultimately, we ran into bad economic climate, so that one didn't turn out as well, and it went out of existence about 3 or 4 years after we initially started it, but the other one is still going. My foray into real estate basically happened because I was sitting in my office watching 10 episodes of SportsCenter in a row, and that was not very fulfilling, and the scores were the same the next time I watched it, so wanted to get into something else. Always thought real estate was kind of sexy, if you will. I've read that a lot of people that are some of the richest and wealthiest people in the world either got that wealth through real estate or through telecommunications, and you can do your own research on that. Real estate was something that I had an interest in. Took in as much information as I could, reading online, ran into some good people, some good connections, and then ultimately got with my partner Scott, who's been on the channel, and you interviewed him. Obviously, we've had our growing pains, rapid growth at this point, but we bootstrapped it for a couple of years, but failure was just simply not an option. It wasn't, whether or not we were going to succeed. It's how are we going to get there, putting in long hours, working on the weekends. My friends and family joke with me that I'm an absolute workaholic, and I own that. I had a plan in my head of what I wanted to achieve financially, what success looked like for me, and I wasn't going to stop and will not stop until we get there.
So let's backpedal for a second. So you mentioned before getting into your first business, which is still around, still successful, grew that within a few years to 20 million, you said, that you had started with a sales career that took off also.
Yeah.
You had a lot of success with that, obviously ranked number 2 very early on, were offered a promotion and then decided not to pursue the corporate life any further. How much did the sales skill carry with you into your subsequent businesses? Was that something that you felt was a necessity to have, or do you think that folks who are perhaps less experienced in sales can have success inside business?
I think for me personally, it did definitely go a long way. Just the ability to communicate with people has always served me well. I don't think that it's an absolute necessity. I mean, there's people that are out there that are extremely successful that I wouldn't necessarily say that they have the best social skills. So I think it can be a combination of both of those. I think just putting yourselves out there, taking risk. Most people that obviously are entrepreneurs and successful ones have taken those giant leaps of faith. They've bet on themselves effectively, which is what we all have to do, right? It starts with believing in yourself. I think the sales component of it has definitely served me well, just the ability to communicate with people, influence people, not necessarily in a deceptive manner, obviously, but just being able to, through that dialogue, really communicate well with them, make them kind of see my points of view, obviously adding value to whatever service or product I'm trying to sell, I think goes a long way. So I don't think it's an absolute necessity, but people need to fake it until they make it. They have to be able to get out of their comfort zone. That's when success starts to happen. And if they're timid or they're shy, build up that confidence through reading, having good mentors that are going to kind of break you out of that shell. Kind of a long answer to your short question. I think it served me well, absolutely, but I don't think that success is absolutely dependent on that for anyone.
I think that's a great answer. I had a lot of background in sales too, that's why I ask. And I would agree, I think it served me well. I would definitely encourage people who have not yet taken time to polish their skill of being able to find solutions for needs, to work on that. Sales is one of those interesting things. I think it's a real advantage to have that skill. I don't think it's a necessity. I don't think success is contingent upon having that skill, but I don't think it'll ever hurt you. So it's interesting that you mentioned that, and I could see that in you for sure. So Michael and I have known each other now for quite a few years, and the Pink Houses concept was obviously intriguing. I was always kind of fascinated by this attention that you guys were getting. And I'm just kind of curious, so you mentioned this being like a real commitment that you had to make to develop these businesses. How many hours a week would you say were required for you to start really getting some traction as an entrepreneur?
Oh, I mean, I remember vividly 70, 80, 90-hour weeks. I mean, consistently, up working until 12, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, consistently. So that's what I eat, sleep, and breathe, and especially initially when it's you or you and just a couple other people at this point now with Pink. We've got a decent sized staff. We're in the close to 25, 30 employees at this point. So we've got other people that are out there doing a lot of the heavy lifting. But when Scott and I got started, there were 3 of us there, and we wore a lot of different hats, you know, and it was no ego. You check your ego at the door, and it's whatever it takes on that specific day, regardless. You were going to get it done, or we were going to get it done. Long hours, working on weekends, you know, vacation was a foreign word to me at that point, and it's all paid off, you know. So I did take the risk. I rolled up my sleeves. We rolled up our sleeves, and we put the time into it, and obviously it's paid dividends at this point. So being an entrepreneur can be scary, but what's even scarier to me, and my humble opinion, would be going to work for someone else, and my hard work only is going to make someone else more money, and that's not acceptable.
For your entire life until you're too old to appreciate retirement anyway, right?
Right.
So I agree. I think that's far riskier and a much worse long-term outcome, which is why we're so dedicated to sharing about entrepreneurship here, because I want people who have deep down felt that hunger for working for themselves to experience it and to find ways of actually getting involved with things that don't necessarily put everything on the line. Not just from a financial standpoint, but from a time standpoint too, because when you're talking about 70, 80, 90-hour weeks, but you're speaking with somebody who, say, is still working for somebody else, it's virtually impossible to wrap your mind around how am I going to squeeze another 40 hours a week out of my time, much less 70 or 80, right? Because now you're talking about 120 hour weeks. Here's the thing, folks. I got to tell you, being somebody that's blazed a trail ourselves, similar to you, because you've also kind of created this awesome concept of little pink houses where people don't need cash and they don't need credit and they can make $15,000, $30,000, $45,000 in a month, realistically, and only invest 20 or 30 hours per week to do it. That's unusual compared to what you and I did. And as a trailblazer, I saw those 100 and 120 hour weeks. So depending on the type of entrepreneur you want to be, you've got to be prepared to meet the requirements that your specific choice of industries presents you with. You have to face it head on. And so if I were going to go back and do this all over again, I don't think I would be blazing a trail. I would be following a formula and a pre-existing roadmap. And as long as you're good at following instructions, you will create success. If you try to veer off too much one way or another from that path, oftentimes you're going to find that it will compromise success based on my experience. You know, not to touch too much on the little pink houses side of this conversation, but that's one of the reasons that I've always been attracted to that model, is that there's ways of making huge amounts of money and not having to put in those 100, 120 hour weeks, and not having to rely so much on things that we teach here on this channel about having great credit and having, you know, a lot of borrowing power where you have to go hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt on each property. Instead, you're basically just subscribing as an affiliate or for a so-called franchise, which costs money, of course, but that one-time business expense is oftentimes paid back, within a matter of just a month or two even. So
yeah, usually the first couple deals, depending on the level of involvement, they get in with us. And I like that you use the term rogue, and there's definitely an element of that when you're an entrepreneur and you are trying things, especially if you're blazing your own trail, which is what you've done and which is what we've done. It's a lot easier for people to come in kind of after the fact. We've made every single mistake possible in our business, and we've made all of those mistakes. We've learned from them. We've implemented obviously checks and balances along the way that now people that are coming into the fray with us can take advantage of that. And we always say that, listen, we've made every single mistake. If you can follow a roadmap, if you can follow a specific blueprint, you don't have to recreate the wheel, right?
Yeah.
There's a perfect wheel in front of you right now. Just utilize the resources that are available to you. If you don't do that, it's amazing to me that people don't want to follow a formula for success, and then they wonder what went wrong. So we offer that, obviously, and obviously you're doing the same thing on your end.
So you've made technically, at least what I picked up on, at least one of the what would be considered cardinal mistakes of business, which is going into business with family and friends. right? So you mentioned your sister, you mentioned your dad, you mentioned your best friend. So we're pretty much getting down the checklist of everyone around you. You just choose to go into business with, huh?
Yeah, and
so how's that working out?
Well, it's actually worked out really well. Now it's got its ups and downs and highs and lows. Fortunately, all of my friendships and family relationships have stayed intact in spite of those business relationships. But
so how did it go with your sister though? Because that business failed, right?
It did. It did. At no fault of ours, though. It was a great business. It was actually just very, very unique in the online space. The company was called Leverage, and basically it leveraged reward points and gift cards and things like that, and had kind of an online central location for it.
I've always liked that concept.
Yeah, it was very cool. And of course, we were all disappointed when it didn't work out, but our relationship stayed intact. The next business that I had with my best friend Eric and my father, of course, had its highs and lows, but we all had a common goal. Obviously, we wanted to be successful. So, kind of checking your ego at the door, which is something that we always say. And you don't have to be the smartest person in the room, but when you can collaborate with people, I think trust is the biggest thing. And obviously, having a best friend that you're in business with and family, you've got that trust really right out of the gate, which is important because you're not going to get, kind of undercut. So I think that there's a level of comfort with that, but it can certainly bleed over into your personal life as well. So I don't know that I necessarily have a bad taste in my mouth for it. In fact, it'd be quite the opposite of that, but I've heard horror stories. I mean, time and time again.
Do you recommend people stay away from it, or is it just case by case?
I think it's case by case because I can speak from it in a very positive light, but just being in business and networking and knowing people over the years, I would say more often than not, it has actually really, really hurt some relationships, both family and friendships. And some of those relationships have ended over business. Money is a crazy thing and it does some weird things to people. So I think it's on a case by case basis. Again, I've got a good positive experience with it, even though there's been some tumultuous times in it. But I would definitely tell people to be a little bit leery.
Yeah, you almost can't go into business with a family member or friend without understanding and accepting the possibility that it could possibly create distance in that relationship, if not destroy it completely, which has happened to me on multiple occasions as well. So you do have to look out for that. Now, just a last couple of questions. What was your financial progress like? Did you start from scratch, or did you have a kind of a jump start when it came to starting businesses? Because it's expensive to start businesses. And so how did you, what were the beginnings like for you?
No, it's all been self-funded. Okay. Have never taken any type of, seed capital for any of these. Fortunately, when I got out of college, got out with, with no debt and got which would have been annualized a six-figure income pretty quickly and had very, very little overhead. So I was able to take that, obviously had some savings from that I was able to live on until we ultimately started generating cash flow through our business.
How long did it take to start making money?
I remember probably now the one with my sister, Leverage, there was some funding involved with that, so that one was a little bit different, but the Allegiant Marketing Group, which is the direct mail and the digital marketing company that we still have, I remember going probably 6 months without a paycheck. And of course there were some nervous times involved with that. In fact, I remember at one point considering putting together a resume because I had about maybe a month or two left of cash that was going to be able to support just my life and my lifestyle. And fortunately, some things happened, and we kind of caught lightning in a bottle, and the trajectory was kind of slowly going up, and then it really skyrocketed at that point. And I've never really looked back since then. I've made just good, sound financial decisions over the years. I'm not a big spender. I do like some nice things, but I'm not. Don't have some extravagant lifestyle. That's just not what's important to me. So since then, obviously, have just continued to generate a pretty significant amount of wealth through the other businesses. And
you invest in real estate?
I do.
Yourself?
Yes.
So let's not spend too much time on this, but I am curious what your portfolio looks like. I know you've got a fairly large multi-unit property complex as well too, right?
Yeah, there's it's about 180 doors on that one. Got some long-term buy and holds. Used to do some flips. Haven't really done a lot of flips in a while, and I think that that's just because I haven't necessarily had the time to do it. And I think that it's a very precarious time to really get involved in that right now, just based on kind of the market correcting itself right now. I never want to get caught holding the bag. I know we've talked about in some of our previous videos, the scariest thing about doing that flip is if the market corrects and you're not finished with your project, then maybe you've got hard money that you're paying on, and all of a sudden the bottom falls out and you're left holding the bag. So not very interested in that at this point, but do have some long-term buy and holds. The multi-family is very appealing to me.
So did you go into that multifamily with partners?
Did, yeah.
Okay. How many partners?
2.
Okay. And that's 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom.
Correct.
Guys, this is important to understand that self-funding these projects can lead to this type of mass result. I mean, look at somebody that went from 0 to 180 doors. This is literally what most people on this channel come here looking for, is how do I get from 0 to that? And I would encourage you guys to visit the next video. I'll put a link in the description that talks about Little Pink Houses of America, because we did a really full-length interview regarding it. It covers all the specifics you guys are going to want to know about. The short of it is making tens of thousands of dollars every month. This is not some multi-level marketing, network marketing style of business opportunity. This is actually an opportunity still within the real estate world, but it's unique in that it's basically maximizing the potential of lease options / wholesaling, and it's one of a kind. I've never seen anything like it. Everybody that I've brought it up to in this space on YouTube has taken an interest in it. They have perked up and said, wow, that is certainly something worth considering if you're looking for a side project that doesn't necessarily require all of your additional waking hours outside of what you're putting in on your current streams of income. So I think if you're looking for short-term cash flow, this is one of the best real estate related solutions that's available right now, where you're not going to be taking such an enormous risk. I agree. I think going out and considering fixing and flipping properties is just far too uncertain at the moment. I think it's just way too volatile an economy for you to be taking any risks where you're dumping that kind of money into properties. So this is a way to avoid doing that. It doesn't require your cash, doesn't require your credit. So go in and check those videos out. We're gonna bring Michael back in for additional topics because there's a lot we want to cover, but I did want to at least give a little bit more insight as to what his background looked like and how that might be able to help you guys. What would be one business related book that played a big part in your life that had an influence over
There's a handful of them. I think my initial books that really stick out to me are the Robert Kiyosaki, the Rich Dad Poor Dad, the follow-up book to that, Cash Flow Quadrant. Those really impacted me. Jim Collins has a book called Good to Great, which really resonated with me, particularly for people that are trying to scale a business. He relates it to a bus and having not only the right people on that bus, but those people being in the right seats on the bus as far as what their job function is. From a scalability standpoint, we always reference that one. Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, was one that had an impact on me early on. I've read all 4 of those books probably a dozen times each, and every single time I read them I get some new nugget out of those. So those would be just off the cuff a handful that I would certainly recommend.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm familiar with all of them, read them all myself, certainly can support those recommendations. If you guys haven't read those, what are you waiting for? Those are some of the principal books that should be on your bookshelf. Stick around, make sure you check the link in the description. I'm gonna go ahead and send you guys back to the original video that talks more about the Pink Houses opportunity. It is limited, and I say that in all of these videos. It's geographically related. This is not an unlimited supply. And you guys are killing it, man. I mean, the audience that we have here on YouTube that has explored this opportunity and has taken advantage of it, they just keep coming in and racking up the money. They are making some huge headway and have amazing success stories. So we're going to talk to a couple of people this afternoon for some updates. I want to hear how their progress is going. And until we see you guys on the next video, make sure you're a subscriber to the channel. Turn on your post notifications by hitting that bell, and then you'll be alerted every time we drop another video. Make sure you drop a like on this if you guys want us to continue to make good content regarding tips and tricks that successful people are using in order to create their wealth. All right, guys, until we see you on the next video, make it a great day. Take care.